We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Dalet Amud Beis Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 64b. The Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai says, Eino chayiv. A person is not chayiv with regards to the molech. Ad sheim serenu lemisharsei avodah zarah. He has to give over his child to the misharsei avodah zarah, to those who are serving the avodah zarah, to the priests of the molech. Rashi explains, Rabbi Yanai lefrushe ad sheyimsor demasnisun. Rabbi Yanai here is explaining. It says in the Mishnah that he has to give over and also pass the child through the fire. So what does it mean, give over? Also, Lamemar dahach masir lemisharsei avodah zarah kam. Rabbi Yanai is saying that when it says give over in the Mishnah, it means you're giving over to the priests of the avodah zarah. And Rabbi Yanai continues, Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Umizaracha lo sitein lahavir lamolech. It says, don't give over from your children to the molech. Rashi says, lo sitein lahavir, lo sitein laacherim lahavir. It means don't give to others who are going to pass the child through the fire. Ustama de milsa shamosh and shaloi. And in general, it means to say the priests, those who serve the avodah zarah kamavir and law, they're the ones that are going to pass the child through the fire. And the Gemara continues, Tanya nami hachi. We have a brayso like this as well. Yachol havir velo masar yechayev. One might think that if he passes the child through the fire without giving over the child to the misharsei avodah zarah, one might think chayiv in that case. Talmud lomar lo sitein. It says lo sitein, you have to give the child over. Masar lemolech velo hever. Let's say he gives over the child to the priests of the molech, but they don't pass the child through the fire. Yachol yeh chayiv. One might think chayiv over there. Talmud lomar lahavir. It says lahavir. It has to be lahavir to pass him through the fire. Masar v'havir shelo lemolech. Let's say he gives over and they pass him, but not to molech. Yachol yeh chayiv. One might think that's liable. Talmud lomar lemolech. The pasuk says it has to be to molech. Masar v'havir lemolech v'lo be'esh. Let's say he gives over the child and they pass it to molech, but not through the fire. Yachol yeh chayiv. One might think chayiv for that. Talmud lom nemar kan lahavir. It says over here the word lahavir. V'nemar lahalan, and it says further on lo yimatzei b'cha mavir beno uvito ba'esh. It uses the word mavir and it talks specifically about the fire. Ma lahalan ba'esh, just like over there it's talking about fire. Afkan ba'esh, so too over here it's talking about fire. Uma kan molech, and just like over here we're referring specifically to molech. Af lahalan molech, so too over there we're referring to molech. And the Gemara continues, Amar Avacha Brei de Rava. Avacha, the son of Rava, says, Hevier kol zaro. Let's say a person gives all of his children, passes all of his children to molech, potter. In that case, he's potter. Shenemar mizaracha, because it says from your children, velo kol zaracha, not all of your children. And the Gemara continues, by Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi asks, Ha'eviro suma mahu. What if the person passes the child, but the child is blind? He wouldn't be able to walk on his own. Maybe that's not called havara. What's the halach in that case? Or similarly, yoshein mahu. Let's say the child is sleeping. The same kind of question. Is that considered to be havara? Or ben beno ven bito. Let's say it's the son of his son or the son of his daughter, meaning his grandson. Mahu. What's the halach? Is that considered a violation? And the Gemara says, tifshot mi hachada. Let's at least answer one of these questions. The Tanya, because we learned in a brayso, ki mizaro nasan lamolech. It says he gave mizaro. Matam alomar. What does the pasuk mean? Mizaro lefi shenemar lo yimatzi b'cha mavir beno uvito b'esh. Because the other pasuk says mavir beno uvito. It talks about his son and his daughter. Ein liela beno uvito. I only know son and daughter. Ben beno ven bito minayin. How do we know it applies to the son of his son and the son of his daughter? How do we know that as well? Talmud lomar. The pasuk says besito mizaro. It says besito mizaro. It means any of his descendants. It applies to grandchildren as well. But the Gemara continues, Tana, in this brayso, pasach bechizaro. It starts with a pasuk of ki mizaro nasan lamolech, v'salach besito mizaro, but then it actually brings a different pasuk, the pasuk of besito mizaro lamolech. That does not seem consistent with the beginning of the brayso. And the Gemara says drasha achrinahu. The Gemara says you're right. That was actually a separate drasha. There are two different drashas going on in this brayso. Zaro, it says again, his descendants, his children, ein liela zera kosher. And so the brayso is also addressing whether or not it has to be zera kosher. It even applies to zera pasal. I only know that it's legitimate children. Zera pasal minayin. From where do we know? Even if it's illegitimate children, even if it's a mamzer, it would apply. Talmud lomar besito mizaro. That's what it says in the pasuk, besito mizaro, and that teaches that this would apply to a child that's a mamzer as well. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, Eino chayiv ad she'avirenu derech havara. Person is only chayiv when he passes the child through the fire derech havara. The Gemara says, Hey Chidami, what does that mean exactly? Amar Abaye says, Shraga delivni b'mitzay. What you have over here is you're going to have a lattice of bricks in the middle, and nura mehaygisa v'nura mehaygisa. There'll be fire on one side and fire on the other side, and the child passes through the middle. Rashi says, Derech Havara Shaloshina Min HaChok. He can't change from the way they would do it, meaning the non-Jews. Ela Kederech Minog Havoras HaMolech. It has to be according to the custom that was by Havoras HaMolech. And Shraga Delivni, again, you have this path of bricks. Shuras Levenim Gavoa Levon Al Gabi Levon. It's a high path of bricks, a brick on top of a brick. Vo'esh Mikan Umikan, and the fires on each side. Umavir and Olav, and you pass the child through over there. Ve'eno Sorfo, and it actually doesn't burn him. The understanding over here is that the child does not die. Midiktani Lakamon Hamavir Atzmo Potter, from the fact that it says later on that somebody passes himself through the Molech, he's Potter. Al Molachar Havara Huchai. You see that after the Havara, he actually is alive. Now Rashi asks, we said earlier, it sounded like earlier, that the child actually dies. V'hada Amrina, that which we said earlier, Gabi Chizkiya, by Chizkiya, Shesachso Imo Salamandra. We said that his mother, she smeared him with salamander oil that was to protect him from the fire, so it sounds like he would have died otherwise. Rashi says, Lav Lamolechaya, there actually it wasn't a Molech. Ela Lelohe Sfarvayim, rather that was to the gods of the Sfarvayim, the Hasam Sreif Uksiv. There it actually says burned. There in that particular situation he would have died, but that doesn't apply to the regular situation of Molech. And the Gemara continues with another explanation of what does it mean Havara by Molech. Rava Amar Rava says Kimishavrasa Depuria, it's like those who leap on Purim. And Rashi says Rava Amar Kimishavrasa Depuria Eino Maviro Baraglav. It's not that he walks with his feet and he's up kind of elevated on these bricks. Ela Kofetz Baraglav, rather it means he's jumping, he's leaping. Kederach Shatinokos Kofsen Bimei HaPurim, like the children, they would leap on Purim. Shaisa Chafira Ba'aretz, that there was a hole in the ground. Va'esh Boer Bo, and there was a fire there. V'kofetz Misafa L'saf, and he would jump from one side to the other side. That's actually what it means, the Havara, when it comes to Molech. And the Gemara continues, Tanya Kavase de Rava, we have a brisa that supports Rava. Eino Chayvat Shiavirenu Derech Havara, it has to be Derech Havara and Havira Beregel Potter, but if it's Beregel, so then, or if it's the other text of the Bach is Derech Havaroso, and again Haviro Beregel, but if he does it Beregel like walking, he's Potter in such a situation. Rashi says Derech Havaroso Avodaso Shal Molech, it means the normal way that the Molech is served, but Haviro Beregel Potter, but if it's Beregel, it's going to be Potter. Alma Derech Avodaso Bekvitza, you see that walking is Potter, that's not the normal way. The normal way is by jumping or leaping. And the Brisa continues, V'yeino chayev el al Yotzei Yerecho, he's only chayev when he passes Yotzei Yerecho, meaning his descendants. Haketzad haso, b'no uvito chayev, if it's his son, or if it's his daughter, then he's chayev, but aviv, v'imo, achiv, v'achoso, if it's his father, his mother, his brother, or his sister, potter, then he's potter. And hevir atzmo potter, the Tanakam of the Brisa says, if he passes himself through the molech, he's potter. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, mechayev, but Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon says chayev, if he passes himself. Echad lamolech, v'echad l'shar avodah zara chayev, Tanakama says it doesn't matter if he does this to the Molech or other Avodah Zarah, but Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon says La Molech Chayev, to the Molech Chayev, Shalo La Molech Potter. But if it's not to the Molech, it is Potter. And the Gemara continues. Amar Ula says, my time with Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon. What's the reason of Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon with regards to Hever Atzmo when he passes himself? Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon says Chayev. What's the source for that? Amar Kratz, because the pasuk says Lo Yimatzei Becha, and we understand from the word Becha bi'atzmecha. Becha refers to yourself. The violation even occurs if he passes himself. But the Gemara continues, V'Rabbanan lo darshi becha, the Rabbanan don't darshan the word becha. V'atnan, but then we learn in the Mishnah, Aveidaso v'Aveidas aviv, let's say it's his lost object that he can deal with, that he can recover, or it's the lost object of his father, which one takes precedence? Shalo kodemis, his takes precedence. V'Amrinan, and we say on that, my time, and what's the reason that his Aveda takes precedence? V'Amar Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda says, Amar Krutz, because the pasuk says, Efes ki lo yeh becha evyon, it says there shouldn't be among you poor, and so you should recover your lost objects. And we understand from there, Shalo kodem l'shal koladim, his comes before others people, and so apparently they are darshaning becha. So what do we mean that the Rabbanan, they don't darshan the word becha when it comes to Molech? And the Gemara says actually over there by lost objects we're not darshaning becha, but hasam me efes. There what we're actually doing is we're darshaning from the word efes. Rashi says hasam me efes ki lo yeh becha evyon di ilav li azhara asa ela lehaftacha. If this is not a warning, it's just a haftacha. It's just like a guarantee that there's not going to be among you poor. Shemavtichem shelo yeh behem evyonim, that he's guaranteeing them that there won't be poor. Nichtav lo yeh becha evyon. Then it should just say there won't be among you poor. Minachsiv efes, from the fact that it uses the word efes leazhara asa, it's actually a warning. Kilomar efes v'chadal v'chola aniyos memcha. You have to stop. Don't have poverty from yourself. That's what the pasuk is saying. You should make sure that there is no poverty. You should take care of your lost object first. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina says, Shalosh krisos ba'avodah zara lama. Why does it say kares 3 times by avodah zara? Achas lechedarka, one is when you serve the avodah zara in the normal fashion. V'achas l'shalo kedarka, one is when you serve the avodah zara not in the normal fashion. V'achas l'molech, and one is when it was referring to the molech. And Rashi explains, Shalosh krisas ba'avodah zara, tarti gavi molech. 2 of these times it says kares is by molech, bekedoshim to you in Parshas Kedoshim. And the Pasuk Gemara, Vani eten es panai boishahu v'hechrati oso mikerev amo. It says v'hechrati. V'samti ani es panai boishahu v'mishpachto v'hechrati oso. V'etz kol hazonim, and then it uses the word v'hechrati again. V'inami svira lei de molech lav avodah zara. Now, even if we're going to hold that molech is not avodah zara, mikol makom kari le avodah zara. Still here we're referring to it as avodah zara. Again, we had that machlokas on the previous summit whether molech was avodah zara or not. V'hashlishas in the third kares, b'shlach lecho anoshim, that's in Parshas Shlach. Kidvar Hashem bozav es mitzvaso heifar hikares tikares hanefesh ha'hi. It uses the word hikares tikares, which we're counting as 1 kares. B'tanya lekamon be'elu she'en lem chelak lo'olam haba, and we learn in the Brisa later on when we're talking about those who don't have a portion in the world to come. Devar Hashem Baza Zed Dibor Rishon. How do we know this is talking about Avodah Zara? Because Devar Hashem Baza is a reference to the first Dibor of the Aseres Hadibros Shenemar B'Sinai, which was at Har Sinai. V'hu Avodah Zara, and that's Avodah Zara. V'hadechsiv Hikares Tikares, and the fact that it says twice Hikares Tikares, why doesn't that count as 2? Chada Chashavle, we're only counting that as 1. Kedem Efarish L'Kamon, as will be explained later on. Dibra Torah Koloshim B'nei Adam, that the Torah is talking in the normal way that people speak. And as Hashem hu megadef v'nichrsa, now there's a 4th time where it talks about megadef, it uses the word v'nichrsa, l'kamon mefarash. When the Gemara will go on, it's going to explain that 4th time. And again, why does it say it 3 times? Achas shalo kedarka, one is if it's not the normal way of service, kares yasera gabe molech, meaning that extra kares by molech, emeinu inyan lof, we're not going to apply to molech, teneu inyan lezibuach, v'kitor, v'nitzach, v'shtachava, will apply it to, let's say, a person does avodas in the Beis HaMikdash, like sacrificing, burning, or libations, or a person is hishtachava, a person bows, shu chayiv aleim af shelo kedarka. For those things you're chayiv, even if it's not the normal way. V'achas l'molech, and one of them is for molech. Di'afa b'shadarkan b'kach. Now, even though that's the normal way by molech, mi boy le'le michtava b'yapei nafshi, it needs to be written on its own. The molech lav avodah zara, because the molech is not avodah zara. V'yekbida Torah Allah, but still the Torah is makvid with regards to molech. And the Gemara continues, Ulaman damar molech avodah zara. Now, according to the one who says molech is avodah zara, so one of them cannot simply be for molech. So then kares b'molech lamali. So what do we need that kares by molech? Lamavir beno shalo kedarka. What it means is, let's say a person is mavir his son not in the normal fashion. And Rashi explains, Ulaman damar molech avodah zara. According to the one who says molech is avodah zara, v'have bichlal kedarka. So therefore, that's just the normal kedarka. That's the way of serving it. The chol shar avodos me'echa yavdu nafka. That's by all other avodas, if you do it in the normal fashion that's learned from Echa Yavdu. So according to that man Amar, what the Torah is saying is even by other avodah zaras, she'ein darko bekach, where it's not normal that way, shalom matzinu ela zibuach v'kita v'nisach v'shtachava, because we only find sacrificing, burning, libations, and bowing, but now also the havara that's done by molech, that will apply by other avodah zaras as well, even if that's not the normal way of serving. And the Gemara continues, Ulaman da'amar. Now, according to the one who says megadef avodah zara, he will see Rashi in a moment, but there's a machlokas what megadef refers to. According to the one who says megadef simply refers to avodah zara, so kares by megadef lamali. Why do we need kares by megadef? And the Gemara says to that, lechidatanya, we need it for the following brisa. It says by megadef hikares tikares. It uses the double language hikares tikares. Hikares ba'olam hazet tikares lo'olam haba. Hikares is referring to a kares in this world. Tikares is referring to the world to come. Rabbi Akiva. This is the opinion of Rabbi Akiva. Amar lo Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says, Tim v'lo kvar nemar v'nichrasa, but doesn't already say v'nichrasa. V'chishlosha olamim yesh. Are there 3 worlds? How do you explain it 3 times? El v'nichrasa ba'olam hazeh. Rather, v'nichrasa means in this world. Hikares lo'olam haba. Hikares means in the next world. And tikares, why does it say hikares tikares? Dibra Torah koloshim b'nei Adam. The Torah is speaking in the same fashion that people speak. And Rashi says, Ulaman do'amar b'krisos megadef zeha oved avodah zara. According to the one who says in krisus, that megadif is serving avodah zarah, kagon mishorer li avodah zarah, for example, singing to an avodah zarah. Kares techsiv megadif lamali. Why does it say kares by megadif? Achrei shadarka bekach. If that's just the normal way of serving. Uplug sahi bekrisus. This is a machlokus in krisus. Equal mandamar megadif hainu mevarech es Hashem. There's another mandamar that says megadif refers to cursing the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but again, this mandamar says that megadif is avodah zarah. And the Gemara says l'chidetanya, it's needed for the following brisa: kedemukim le Rabbi Shmuel echad li'olam hazeh v'echad li'olam haba. Like Rabbi Shmuel says, one for olam hazeh and one for olam haba. V'alo kvar nemar v'nichrasa. The brisa again said, Rabbi Shmuel said, doesn't it already say v'nichrasa? But osa parsha atzma b'gavi megadif. By megadif it says v'nichrasa. Rabbi Akiva svirle megadif hainu mevarech es Hashem. Now Rabbi Akiva, his response to Rabbi Shmuel would be that he holds that megadif is actually cursing the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kedamar b'krisus, like it said in krisus. V'olam haba lo nafkale ba'avodah zarah elam hikares tikares. And therefore the concept of olam haba by avodah zarah is going to be learned out from hikares tikares. Rabbi Shmuel lav Rabbi Akiva parach. Rabbi Shmuel's not really asking on Rabbi Akiva. V'halo kvar nemar v'nichrasa. He's not asking this question of doesn't it say v'nichrasa to Rabbi Akiva, because again, to Rabbi Akiva b'mevorech es Hashem muki. Rabbi Akiva says that is talking about cursing the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Elatayim adenavshei kam. Rabbi Shmuel's giving his own reason. V'halo kvar nemar v'nichrasa. Doesn't it already say v'nichrasa? V'anos really deva avodah zarah ksiv. And I hold that that's written by avodah zarah. V'chi shlosha olamos yeshar. There are three worlds. V'domela b'shchitas chulin v'alo b'mukdoshin ha'omer ragla shel zu ola kula ola da pircha lav l'cheshenegdo parach. You have a similar thing over there in shchitas chulin where the question that's being asked is not really to the person he's arguing with. Do you sfir le'afilu b'mukdoshin dein kula ola l'tayim b'denafshei amar. There also the person is just, the Tan is just giving his own reason. Amar b'perak behema hamakasha. And so therefore that's what's happening over here as well. Rabbi Shmuel is not responding directly to Rabbi Akiva. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Amud Aleph.